Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another beautiful video. In this video, I will be talking to you about the difference between being fully authentically yourself and not being your authentic self. So I'm going to explain why sometimes we are not our authentic self and how do we know that sometimes we are not our authentic self, and why do we care about being our authentic self? Why is everyone nowadays saying, I just want to be my authentic self? There's this buzz nowadays that being your authentic self is the way to go. And I was actually inspired to do this video after I listened to an Instagram live. It was in the Serbian language. It was this phenomenal lady who is a coach and a therapist. And she had a lot of challenges, psychological and emotional challenges throughout her life. And she was able to come out of them, to become stronger and shinier version of herself by getting rid of the weight of all those feelings that were limiting her. And now she's helping others do the same. And she said in that interview, she said, my biggest achievement is that I am showing as my authentic self no matter where I am, whether I'm on TV, Instagram, radio, with my family and friends, I'm always my authentic self. And I thought, wow, that's really nice. I actually congratulated her, on this side of the screen. I said, well done. That's what I want to do as well. And that's what I'm working on. And I feel better when I'm my authentic self. And then I started thinking, so if nowadays we're saying, yeah, I really want to be my authentic self at all times, that means that in certain situations we are not our authentic self. And then in some other situations we are our authentic self. So what is the difference? And who is then, if there's this authentic self, who we are, and then sometimes we are not our authentic self. So who are we in that moment, when in those situations where we are not our authentic self? And where does that persona come from? Who created it? How was it created? Where does it come from? How come it just pops up? In most cases we cannot control it. I'm talking about these situations where this is triggered and not really within our power. Some people choose to put on a mask intentionally in certain situations. So I'm not talking about that scenario. I'm talking about a scenario where you can't control it. In certain situations, most likely in some social gatherings or social situations with other people, that we feel this is triggered, but we're not even aware of it. So where does it come from? Why is it triggered? And how do we get to being fully our authentic self? This is what I'm going to be talking about. And I'm really happy to discuss this topic because I'm really, it gets to the core of what I have discovered on my inner growth journey. And it's so important and it's so powerful. So I'm really happy to share this with you today. So in certain situations, we are our authentic self. And then we feel in some situations we are not our authentic self. How come? What happened throughout our life that we got this split? Why is it not the same? Why is it not always our authentic self that is always showing itself? So when you came to this world as a baby, you came to this world, every single baby came to this world knowing that they're good enough just the way they are. They're lovable. And they're just good enough. So they show as their authentic self. Babies, they cry when they don't like something. They will laugh when something is funny. They laugh when they're happy. They cry when they're sad. It is what it is with babies. They don't like some food you give them, they will spit it out immediately. If they like something, they will want more of it. They will tell you what they want, what they don't want. They will tell you who they like. They will go and play with people they like. They will not want to go and be with people who are not maybe matching their energy, and so on. So babies are who they are. So we are born with this showing up as ourselves. So what happens then? This is what happens. If throughout our upbringing, this is very, very important. So throughout our upbringing, from the moment we come to this world until today, especially in the very early age, we as babies are learning, you as a baby were learning about the world. And your main goal was to survive on this planet and to be accepted by your parents, by the community, because as a baby, you need to be, and a child, your instinct was pushing you to survive and fit in no matter what, because fitting in and being liked and accepted meant survival. Anything else, not being accepted, not feeling cared for, meant danger, meant potential death. So, as a child, you did everything you could in order to feel safe, accepted, and in order to assure your survival. So, with this survival instinct as a baby, if showing up the way you are as your authentic self was threatening yours in your perception, in your logic of babies don't have logic, but with your baby brain, with your child's brain, who only craves acceptance and survival, if your perception at that time was that showing up as your authentic self was threatening your survival, was putting you in a situation when you are not accepted, potentially rejected, in a situation when you are not liked, potentially rejected, your brain's job is to make sure you survive. So your brain will start developing mechanisms for you to alter your authentic behaviors in order to assure that you are accepted by your parents, by the community, by people who are taking care of you, because that will assure your survival. So, you are giving up on some of the features of your authentic self. You're swapping them for another mechanism, for another type of behavior that is more suitable in that situation when you were a baby or a child, because that altered feature of your showing up, of your self, is the one that in that moment is allowing you to get this acceptance, or you're trying to get the acceptance, reassurance that you are accepted, that you are protected, therefore safe. So, let me sum that up. You came to this world knowing that you're good enough. You're showing as a baby, you're showing as your authentic self. Then maybe in the situations, in the way the dynamics, the way you perceive the dynamics in your family, in a place that you grew up in, your brain might have interpreted those situations in a way that your brain got a message. Showing up as your authentic self might not allow you to be accepted, therefore is putting you in danger. Therefore, we need to alter how you show up. Then of course, your brain is there to protect you. That's its ultimate goal. Your brain needs to protect you. So as a child, you swap some parts of your authentic self for some features, some behaviors that your brain thinks will allow you to get the acceptance that you need. Therefore, you feel safe. rather than rejected and being in danger. Because for our child's brain, if we are rejected, automatically means danger, means death, if we are rejected by our parents or people who are taking care of us. Let's analyze an example. I had a client who, let's take that example. I had a client, this lovely, lovely lady. So when she was young, she was very curious, and also she was very emotional and passionate. I mean, very emotional, those were the words that she used because her parents used them. She was just a normal child, expressing herself, being curious, expressing her feelings. However, she kept getting these remarks from her parents. Oh, you are too noisy, you are too loud, you ask too many questions. Look at your siblings. They're much quieter than you are. What is wrong with you? And she felt that her siblings were getting more attention of her parents, which was the case, than she was. So in her brain, in her child's brain, this immediately switched on the alarm. The alarm was saying, just behaving like your authentic self will get you in trouble, because I'm hearing these remarks that your parents are making over and over and over and over. And now this is becoming dangerous because they might reject you. Of course, in a real life situation, a parent will not just throw their child out on the street just because they're making these remarks. But in a child's brain, you have to put yourself in a situation where a child doesn't really know what is happening. The only thing they're seeing is that the other siblings are getting more attention and they are not. And these remarks, keep hearing these remarks. So their brain is getting a message. Okay, this is because when I am showing myself as my authentic self, expressing my feelings, asking questions, being curious, expressing myself, they don't like me that way. And not being liked by my parents means I'm not good enough just the way I am, and they might reject me. That means danger. That means a threat to my survival. So then she developed these features that her brain came up with to make sure that she feels a little bit better. It's also very painful to have this feedback that her parents don't like you. So then you alter yourself so you would get the assurance that they do love you, they do like you. So she changed herself. She changed some segments of how she's showing up by not really expressing herself and what she thinks, rather listening and nodding her head. Not expressing how she feels, because this was one of the remarks that her parents made. They didn't like it. And these features she developed in her childhood. But what happens is that was a survival mechanism when she was a child. But what happens is when we develop these mechanisms, they are encoded in our subconscious mind, and we grow up and they're coming with us because we are growing up and our brain is coming with us. We have the same brain. So these mechanisms are still there, but we are no longer children. But they're still there because we have developed them. We've never changed them. So this is the difference. This is how this non-authentic, let's call it this way, non-authentic self is formed. And of course, everyone has different features. Everyone's non-authentic self, let's call it this way, is made up of different segments of different types of behaviors and responses, and is triggered in different situations, depending on what they have adopted in their childhood. So when is this triggered? And how come we can't control it? So these mechanisms were developed in our childhood as a response to a certain feeling that we had in a certain situation. Now we grow up And these mechanisms are still in our subconscious mind. They follow us. They're still in our brain. We still have the same brain. And now, in situations that remind us and that trigger the same feeling we had when we were a child, in that situation when our parents were not accepting us, for example. So when we are an adult now and we are in a situation that would trigger the same type of feeling and the same type of, the situation is perceived in a similar way and triggers the same type of feeling, this response, this mechanism survival mechanism from our childhood would immediately be switched on by our subconscious mind. We don't do anything. This is basically the autopilot structure in our brain that gets triggered automatically. Our brain has remembered in a childhood, in the situation, you need to not express your feelings, not express your questions, and therefore you will be liked. So now we're adults. In a similar situation where you might have an urge to express your feeling or ask questions or express yourself, this triggers the same fear. Oh, but I will not be liked, just like I wasn't liked for that when I was a child. It triggers automatically a different response, not the authentic self response, but a different autopilot response you have adopted in your childhood. And that's the non-authentic you that comes up, surfaces up. This is switched on automatically. It was automated for you by your brain when you were a child. Now, good news is that we can change these autopilot features. You can change them. First of all, you need to identify what they are. So, how do we know when we are our authentic self versus not being our authentic self? When you are being your authentic self and reacting and just being, existing as your authentic self in any situation, you feel relaxed, you feel at ease, it feels natural. It just feels, I'm not saying easy, because autopilot responses are very easy because they're automated. I'm just saying ease. You feel at ease. And but you have to really tune in with yourself. You really have to start observing your reactions and also noticing how you feel, so you can notice the difference between when you're showing up as your authentic self and non-authentic self. Showing up as your non-authentic self doesn't feel good if you really pay attention to how you feel. For example, if the same lady would be now an adult person in a situation where she would want to express how she feels, but this same fear of not being accepted and liked from her childhood gets triggered, and the response is keep it in, push it down, it doesn't feel good. If you really pay attention to how you feel in that moment, it does not feel good. It doesn't feel good not to express yourself. You might, even if you go through a similar situation, you might come home after being with a group of people, and then maybe the same type of response gets triggered. So you want to be liked. This is a very common one, where we want to be liked by the people around us. And this is really triggered by this fear of not being liked, because not being liked means not being accepted. Not being accepted means I'm not good enough, and also I'm not accepted means I'm not safe. So it's this fear, and that's why it's so strong. So if you find yourself in a similar situation, you come home afterwards, maybe you're even going to question, why didn't I say it? Why didn't I say I didn't like it? Why did I say yes? I really wanted to say no. Why did I say yes to that plan? I really didn't want to do it. Why do I keep hanging out with these people? I'm not sure I really fit in, and I'm not sure I feel good in that environment, but I keep going and I keep wanting for them to accept me. So in that situation where you didn't fully express yourself, or didn't fully show up as your authentic self, it doesn't feel good. And this is how you can identify the difference between the two. Now, how do we change it? How do we change its responses that are forming this non-authentic self, that keep being triggered automatically, that we can't even control? You, first of all, have to identify them. You have to start being aware of them. And you need to change them. How? Great, yes, but how do I do that? I know. It sounds so easy, but how do I do that? Okay. So first of all, the good news is you can absolutely change this. You know, some people say, yeah, but this is who I am. This is my personality. No, that is not your personality. That is not who you are. If it doesn't feel good, it is not your personality. It is this set of mechanisms that is forming your non-authentic self that you have adopted in your childhood. That is not your personality. So how do we change it? How do we become aware of it and change it? There are many ways, there are several ways, several techniques that can help you, and several ways you can do this. For example, you can read books that can help you. They can clarify a lot of these things for you and can guide you to becoming more aware of what is going on inside of you. So you become closer and closer to changing these non-authentic self responses to life. For example, one of the books I would highly recommend is Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. An amazing book. Dr. Joe Dispenza is talking about that exact same thing that I've just explained. Another way is meditation. Actually, Dr. Joe Dispenza is going to give you a meditation at the end of this book, a meditation that is going to help you do this. So another way to do it is in meditation, and hypnotherapy is also very efficient. The way you are identifying and changing these things has to be in a state. So why meditation, why hypnotherapy? Because you have to be in a state where you can observe this non-authentic self. When you are living your life on a daily basis, you are guided by this autopilot. The only way you can identify it and start changing it, you have to be able to observe it. And meditation will allow you to do this. Hypnotherapy will allow you to do this. So if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments box. I hope this was useful. And one question that I get very often from my clients is, oh, but it's so difficult to change these things, and how do I do this? First of all, you have to be aware that sustaining this non-authentic self is not easy either, because it is putting you in situations where you're not happy, you don't fully express yourself, you don't fully truly do what you want, or say no to what you don't want. That is not easy at all. So if that is not easy, and maybe starting something that is going to bring a change for you, so you become closer to your authentic self, maybe that is uncomfortable, because anything that is new at first feels uncomfortable for your brain. That is just normal. But in time, it will become more and more comfortable. So if you keep saying to yourself, yeah, but it's not easy, it's uncomfortable starting now to change and read all these things and meditate. Yes, but how uncomfortable it is to continue living by this non-authentic self mechanisms, where you can't Say what you want, feel what you want to feel, follow how you feel, choose what feels good to you, say no to what doesn't feel good to you, and just feel free. That is the exact same. That is actually the key thing. When you are running by these non-authentic self mechanisms, so not being your full authentic self, you don't feel free. You don't feel like you're in control. Let's put it this way, maybe a lot of people understand, because you don't feel like you're in control because something is running your life, something that you can't understand and can't control. And when you get rid of that, you start feeling free. You start feeling free of this autopilot mechanism. So long term, how you feel is going to change dramatically. So this comment, oh yeah, it's not easy, it should really just melt in front of what I've just said, in front of this image of you not being free now and being run by some subconscious mechanisms versus you stepping onto this path of awareness and development, inner development, where you're going to start feeling more and more free. Start feeling better and better, freer, happier. So all the effort that you put in will 100% pay off. And you will thank yourself. You will thank your past self for making a choice to step onto that path of inner questioning and inner growth. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this brought a lot of clarity and a lot of questions as well, because inner change really starts with starting to question everything, our reactions, our feelings, the way we show up, things that we do versus the things we don't do. So when we start questioning that, everything changes. So I wish you to step onto this path. It is absolutely worth it. It is absolutely rewarded, and your future self, who is freer and happier, feeling freer and happier, will thank your past self. And when you decide to start this journey, that will be the moment you remember for the rest of your life, because you will say to yourself, I remember that moment and I'm so happy I did it. So I wish you all the best, and sending you a lot of love, a lot of kisses, and see you in one of the next videos. Bye.